aspects of, say, a conservative government if they were to form a minority. If they have a majority, then they can do whatever the hell they want. And I think it's important to avoid that situation. Now, this is breakdown by province. So check out whatever your province is. Across the board, you see here, except for Quebec, where, of course, the Bloc Québécois have a larger percentage, there is a large percentage of a conservative vote, the plurality in every single province, and the majority in some cases, like Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. I mean, it's worth saying, while, yes, there are clear differences between the Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens, a lot of those voters, I know because I know many of them as well, move between the parties. So that typically, this is why this is always going to be a problem when it comes to a first past the post system, where you have the left vote, for a lack of a better term here, being split among three parties, and the conservative vote largely is going to one party. You could argue the PPC has some of that support as well, but it's, come on, they're not much of a party right now. So this is always going to be a problem for the more progressive side of the country, which is the majority. They are the majority, but their vote is split among three different parties, so they do not form majorities. Now, the federal vote intention by age here is very interesting. 18 to 29-year-olds are currently sitting with 42% in support of conservatives, which is a problem, I would say. This to me is, again, looking at the split here, you could argue, oh yeah, but if you add together the Liberals, the Greens, the NDP, that makes it more than the Conservatives. Okay, whatever. But just this support should not be this high. Now, a lot of this, of course, I'm sure comes from provinces that are a little more conservative. Regardless of that, young people generally, and I know this not based on looking at what party they support, but looking at the kinds of policies they support, this does not align with where young people generally are in terms of gay rights, for example, or cannabis legalization. This does not align at all. Or, support for increasing money towards healthcare. Like, this does not align with the values that most young people hold. But this does show you how effective I think the Conservative Party has been at positioning themselves as a party that cares about working class people, that cares about housing, which, maybe I'll just spoil a bit of this now because we'll get to it later. But I mean, the housing stuff is ridiculous when you have big real estate executives among top donors to Pierre Poilievre's campaign or his the party. And the worst offender when it comes to real estate is a conservative MP, or I should say the worst offender in parliament is a conservative MP. I'll get to more on that later. But this is just, to me, this shows more of how effective the conservatives have been at marketing themselves as opposed to anything else. This isn't necessarily about the values that they hold. So, split of gender here as well. You see more males support conservatives compared to female, but apart from that, liberals are exactly the same. Similar numbers here. Impressions of Justin Trudeau. This is where we get to why I think the numbers are where they are. A lot of people, for good reason, left and right, do not like Justin Trudeau. So negative is currently sitting at 58%. It's been around that for a while. And positive sitting at 25%. If the Liberals have any hope of avoiding a majority conservative government, Justin Trudeau has to step down. There has to be a leadership race to replace him. This is, I think, the driving factor for support going to the Conservatives, because they, in the minds of many Canadians, are simply the other option, the other viable option that can form government. Because looking at impressions of Pierre Poilievre, they're not remarkable. I mean, sure, there's more positive than negative, but it's 39% to 34%. The same negatives as Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh's positive just lower here at 33%. So it's not like, Pierre Poilievre's incredible message and charisma is why is why the Conservatives are doing so well in polling. No, it's because people don't like Justin Trudeau. The easy solution here for the Liberals to avoid, at the very least, a majority Conservative government would be to replace Trudeau. Now, this is where we get to key issues. So they didn't put Jagmeet Singh on this list, but Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre. Some of these make sense, like dealing with Donald Trump if he becomes president of the United States again. People think Pierre Poilievre would be better at that. I mean, the obvious reason being that they're both conservatives. So, dealing better with Trump doesn't necessarily mean it's better for people. I would say it's probably not good for people, but you could argue he would be better dealing with him than Trudeau is. Making life more affordable for you. This is where we get to how effective the conservative message has been, despite all the support they have in terms of, or despite the policies they support in terms of wanting to, cut public services. The impressions here that people get of him is that he is much more equipped to deal with affordability than Trudeau, which, to be fair to people, they see Trudeau currently in power and things aren't affordable. Now, I would argue that no party, even the NDP, have no real solutions here, though I would also argue some are better than others. The gap here shouldn't be this far. I think neither of them deserve support, really. The managing the economy and creating good paying jobs, similar number here. Protecting and improving the public healthcare system, which these numbers, again, are weird to me, considering Pierre Poilievre is not proposing any massive investment into healthcare. The most he has said is that he supports the investments that Trudeau recently made. Like that, there's no real differences here, except for the threat of further cuts, seeing how we have seen the Conservatives in the past work. Making child care more affordable, Trudeau leading that because he has actually done that while in power with the Liberals. Liberals have passed affordable child care, and I've experienced that myself. That has been one of the obvious benefits of the Liberal government. Taking action to deal with climate change, again, because of all the arguments against from the Conservatives against the Liberals in terms of what Trudeau is doing with climate, it's obvious that Trudeau would win this category. And then keeping tax low as possible across the board. Yes, that's true. I mean, that's going to benefit the wealthy more than anybody else. But yes, Pierre Poilievre, we keep taxes lower than Trudeau. And building more housing and making it more affordable. This is where things are real stupid. 43% support here for Pierre Poilievre compared to Trudeau at 29. I mean, so to be clear, this is an issue generally. Housing affordability, no party has a solution to this. Not the Liberals, not the NDP, not the Conservatives. But this is a great piece from Ricochet. With a third of MPs profiting off the housing crisis, how can we ever expect them to solve it? The worst offender, as I showed you earlier, is Marty Morantz. This is a Conservative MP who is the most prolific real estate holder in Parliament. He co-owns an unspecified number of rental properties in Edmonton and 16 in Winnipeg. Morantz is the president and director of Winnipeg-based companies Gerant Investments, Real Estate Commission Financing Company, a real estate holding company which partially owns a property that leases commercial real estate to Public Works and Government Services Canada, and Levmore Mortgage Corporation. He also owns shares in all three. This guy, he also owns trust units in Artis Real Estate Investment Trust. This is, for me, stuff like this is the biggest giveaway. In terms of like this individual here is the enemy of affordable housing in Canada. When you see him not even just align himself, become a part of the Conservative Party, that should tell you something. The idea that the Conservative Party will be able to address the housing crisis when they represent the interests of people like this, corporate landowners, corporate real estate investments, is absurd. So again, I'm not saying the Liberals have the solution here. I'm not saying anyone else has the solution. I am saying The conservatives would make it worse. You simply will not be able to see any solution